9 months. That's how long I lived in a marriage that felt more like a contract than love. My husband, Ethan Carraway, a self-made millionaire, with the kind of smile that used to melt me, hadn't touched me in all that time. Not a hug that lingered, not a kiss that meant something, not even a look that made me feel like a woman. 9 months of silence, of separate bedrooms, of dinners where the only sound was silverware against china. And then one night he walked into our home office, leaned against the doorway like nothing was wrong, and said, "It's time you give me a child." I almost laughed. After all this time, after all the rejection, he suddenly wanted a baby. But I knew better. I'd already uncovered his plan. See, Ethan had always been careful, at least he thought he was. He changed his passwords every month, kept his phone locked, claimed late nights at board meetings. But arrogance makes men sloppy. I'd seen the texts he forgot to delete. I'd smelled perfume that wasn't mine clinging to his suits. And one night when he came home smelling like whiskey and someone else's skin, I followed the breadcrumbs straight to a hotel downtown. There she was, Melissa Grant, young, ambitious head of acquisitions at his firm. Her lipstick crimson red, the same shade I found smeared on Ethan's collar. He thought I'd be blind to it or too naive to piece it together. But what really broke me wasn't the cheating. It was the discovery of what he planned next. Buried in our prenup, a prenup his mother's lawyers had written, was a clause. If we had a child, and the marriage ended, custody and financial control went straight to him. His mother, Evelyn, had made sure of that. The Carraway dynasty didn't just want an heir, they wanted ownership of my body, my future, my child. And that night, as he stood in the doorway demanding a baby, all I could think was, "You fool, you think I'm a pawn." But I've already seen the whole board. When I first met Ethan, it was a whirlwind. He'd shown up at my graduate seminar, challenging my thesis in front of everyone, confident and cocky, but I held my ground. That night, he sent flowers. The next week, he flew me to Chicago for a weekend, just to keep debating in person. He courted me like a storm, lavish dinners, stolen kisses in museum hallways, late-night promises, whispered in hotel elevators. He'd once climbed a fire escape at 3 a.m. in the pouring rain just because I wouldn't pick up his calls. "You're my rebellion," he told me, drenched and grinning like a madman. The one thing I chose for myself. I believed him. God help me, I believed him. But the man who once swore he'd burn the world to keep me became the same man who flinched when I touched his face, who winced when I said I loved him, who made me feel like I was invisible in my own home. And his mother never let me forget that I wasn't enough. At every family dinner, Evelyn's eyes would rake over me like I was an investment gone wrong. "Pretty enough," she'd murmur. "But can she give us a dynasty?" Every question at every table boiled down to one thing: my womb. The day I found out Ethan's real plan, I called my best friend Naomi. We sat at the Carlton Hotel, sipping coffee while my hands shook with rage. "He doesn't just want to divorce me," I told her, sliding the folder of evidence across the table. "He wants to get me pregnant first. He wants me tied to him forever while he walks away with everything." Naomi's face went pale. "That's not love. That's war." I smiled, then a smile that even scared me. "Then I'll play it like war." See, what Ethan didn't know was that I'd been preparing. Every credit card charge, every hotel bill, every text between him and Melissa, I had it all. And that prenup. His lawyer had been sloppy. Hidden in the appendix was a clause that no one thought I'd notice. If Ethan cheated, I walked away with everything. His mansion, his company shares, his fortune. The Carraway empire would be mine. But I wasn't going to play my hand just yet. No, I wanted to watch him walk right into his own trap. When he asked me that night for a child, I smiled sweetly, masking the fury in my chest. "Of course, darling. A baby would complete us." He actually believed me, sitting back like he'd already won. But while he was plotting to chain me to him with blood, I was already 3 steps ahead. I'd made an appointment months earlier. IVF. A donor. My baby would be mine. Mine alone, free of their twisted games. Ethan thought he was playing chess. What he didn't realize was that I'd already captured his queen. Things came to a head faster than I expected. Evelyn invited me to the family estate for lunch, her voice dripping with disdain as usual. A Caraway wife must know her duties. I expect an announcement soon. I looked her in the eye and said, "Don't worry, Evelyn. I've taken care of it." She thought I meant Ethan, and I had reconciled. In truth, I meant the first ultrasound was already tucked safely in my purse. But the real explosion came weeks later, when Ethan collapsed during a board meeting. Heart episode, they said. Stress. When I visited him at the hospital, he looked smaller, broken, almost human again. His voice cracked when he admitted I was wrong. Melissa. It was all a setup. My mother Vivian, my ex-wife, they played me. I threw away everything real for lies. I stared at him, at the man who once promised to love me forever, now reduced to a pawn in his own family's cruelty. "You didn't throw it away, Ethan," I said quietly. "You sold it." But that hospital stay was my moment, because by law his incapacity triggered control of the company. To me. The board called me in. I walked into that mahogany-paneled room where every man once ignored me, and I laid down the files, evidence of his affair, evidence of his mother's embezzlement, evidence of a dynasty built on lies. One by one they bent, and by the time I walked out, I wasn't just Mrs. Caraway. I was the new head of Caraway Industries. The look on Ethan's face when he found out, God, I'll never forget it. Equal parts betrayal and awe. "You planned all this," he whispered. "No," I told him. "I planned to be loved. Then I planned to survive. Now I plan to build something better." He begged for another chance. Therapy, partnership, a family on equal terms. And for the first time in months, maybe years, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not arrogance, not possession, just hope. So I gave him conditions: honesty, equality. My child raised with love, not legacy. And I told him the truth: he wasn't the father. He went pale. "So you're carrying someone else's baby?" "I'm carrying my baby," I corrected. "And if you want to be her father, you'll have to earn it." For once, he didn't argue. He just nodded. The months that followed were chaos. His mother tried to claw back power, even from exile. Old secrets spilled, siblings, hidden fortunes, stolen lies, stacked on lies. I held my ground through it all, my belly growing, my resolve hardening. And when my daughter came into the world screaming, fighting from her first breath, I looked at her and knew this wasn't the end of the war. It was the beginning of a life she deserved. A life without chains, without manipulation, without being used as a piece in someone else's game. Ethan held her, his eyes soft for the first time in forever. "She's perfect," he whispered, not biologically his, but his in every way that mattered, if he chose to be. I don't know if our marriage will survive. I don't know if Ethan can really change. But I do know this: I stopped playing their games, and that's how I finally won. So let me ask you, what would you have done in my place? Would you have walked away the moment you saw that lipstick on his collar? Or would you have stayed long enough to flip the entire dynasty on its head? Do you believe people like Ethan can change, or is betrayal always the end? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your stories, your truths. Because love, betrayal, survival, we've all lived some version of it. And maybe, just maybe, sharing it is how we finally take back the game.